So today we're talking about overriding interests. Overriding interests are interests that override either first registration or registered land that's already registered and is disposed of. They appear under Schedule 1 and 3 of the Land Registration Act 2002. There are basically a couple of qualifications that need to be satisfied in order for an interest to gain an overriding status. Overriding interests are various. However, in this video we're talking specifically in particular about the interest of persons in actual occupation at the relevant time. Now, the relevant time under Schedule 3 is the time of the sale of land. Now, these interests can be overriding interests unless some qualifications are not satisfied, and we're going to talk about them in due course. Now, I'm going to give this example. Let's say that I, for the purposes of Schedule 3 of the Land Registration Act 2002, sell my land to Mr. B, and B is purchaser of the freehold. It could be either a mortgagee or it could be either a leaseholder. So, but I'm just choosing to say that he is a purchaser of the freehold. Now, he purchases the land, and I am a trustee. There is a trust of land. The trust of land is a property right because personal rights cannot qualify as overriding interests. And if there is actual occupation, they can be, at the relevant time, they can be an overriding interest. So there's a trust of land, I'm the trustee, and there's beneficiaries. There's only one trustee, so there's not going to be overreaching, because if there was overreaching, that's it. The money is basically paid to two trustees or more, either a trust corporation, and the overriding interest is just overreach. But for the sake of the example, there's no overreaching. There's a sole legal proprietor, is one trustee. So back to what I was saying, I've sold the land, and it is subject to the rights of occupation of the beneficiaries because they're living there. What's going to happen now? First of all, the beneficiaries, the person that claims the overriding interest on the trust of land, needs to show that he has an interest. He needs to show that he has an interest, and if he proves that there's a trust of land, he has that interest. The trust of land needs to be a property right, because personal rights will not qualify. So he's got that. It is a property right. It's a trust of land. So next he's gonna have to show that there is actual occupation, and if there shows that there is actual occupation, he will have to show that there is actual occupation at the relevant time, and that's the time of the sale. Why is it the time of the sale? Is it the time of the sale because if I sold the land to Mr. B and there was no actual occupation at the time of the sale, but it rose after the time, came into existence after the time of the sale, B will have already bought the property, and after buying the property, there is not going to be any point in him to try and discover whether there is an actual occupation or not, because that's what it's going to depend on, whether the actual occupation was obvious when he bought the land at the time of the sale. Now, if he bought the land and then he had to find out if there was an actual occupation, there would be no purpose and no point for him in trying to investigate if there was actual occupation. He would have already bought the land, so he would have ended up with a bad bargain, and even worse, he wouldn't be able to resign the contract unless there was misrepresentation, but we're going to talk about it in another video. So in the decision of Abbey National Building Society versus Can, in order for the chances to be increased that the right is found before the purchaser buys the land, and finds out that there's an adverse interest against his title, the relevant time was not the time of registration, but was the time the actual occupation must exist is the time of the sale. Now, even though there is an actual occupation, if that right, the trust of land, rose like, I don't know, after the purchase, whatever, like if that right rose after the purchase, for example, or if it rose at the time of the sale, like the very time of the execution, the very time of the grant, there still would not have been there would not have been a chance for me, while I was signing the contract of sale, to find out, Mr. B, for example, to find out that there was an interest at that time of the sale. It would have been too late for him again to resign the contract if the property right arose at that time, even if there was actual occupation at the time of the sale. Because the right would not have been in existence, and actual occupation cannot protect that which did not exist at the relevant time, and that's the decision of Cook versus the mortgage business. And therefore, the interest of the person who's claiming an overriding interest must predate the time of the sale. Now, when there is, though, even though an actual occupation was in existence at the time of the sale, and it also predated the time of the sale, the purchaser won't be bound if the interest could not have been obvious after the land was reasonably inspected at the time of the sale. However, if the purchaser had actual knowledge of the right of actual occupation, then even if the right was not discoverable, was not obvious after reasonable inspection of the land, even then, he will be bound by the interest, and there's going to be an overriding interest. However, actual knowledge will only come into play if three qualifications are satisfied, and those are the following: if the interest holder was not in actual occupation at the time the purchaser had actual knowledge of his right, this is going to exclude the binding effect of an overriding interest. Next, there must be an actual knowledge of the right itself and not the occupation, which means it must be a knowledge of that right, not a knowledge of someone that actually lives in there. And third, there must be actual knowledge and not something he ought to have known. Thanks very much for watching. This video is for merely informational purposes only and should not be held as legal advice or advice of any sort. Please subscribe to my channel for more videos like that. Thank you.